What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. We have a name. So I'm going to say the name. I've got a whole little intro too, and then we're going to get into it. Okay, ready? This is Operation Smarty Pants, where our mission is to acquire knowledge and expand our minds. I am your host, Special Agent Rae, and today we are going to learn what it takes to live to be 100 years old. Woo, okay. You guys, thank you so much for all the love on my first episode. Stick around to the end for some shout outs. But other than that, we're gonna get right into it. So this week I watched the first episode of a documentary series on Netflix called Live to 100, Secrets of the Blue Zones. Now, a blue zone is a location, a region, a city, what have you, on this earth that has a bunch of people who live to be 100 or more years old. Now, that is pretty rare, especially in today's day and age with so many environmental and nutritional factors, and just people are so unhealthy these days, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But especially here in the US, the sort of society that we live in makes it really difficult to be healthy. It's not easy to live a healthy life. There's so much temptations. It can be expensive. We're spending so much time working that we don't necessarily have time to take care of ourselves. So living to be 100 or older is very rare. So I was super interested in this documentary series and learning this information because I am going to live to be 150 years old. I say that all the time. That is my goal. I want to live a long, happy, fulfilled life. And I think that 150 is not too much to ask for. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but at least 100. I'd ideally like to be 150 years old. I have been fortunate enough to know all four of my grandparents and then even my great-grandparents on my mom's side. My great-grandmother is still alive. She is 97 years old. I think she's turning 98 this year. So she is almost a centenarian, and that's my inspiration. I want to be able to follow in their footsteps and live as healthy lives as my grandparents are, and hopefully get to see my great grandbabies when I am that old. So I was really looking forward to this. The first episode of this series takes place in Okinawa, Japan. Now they kind of in the beginning they kind of pulled back and showed you like all the different places that they were going to be exploring in this series. And I noticed that all of these locations, these cities, are near the equator, which is very interesting. So living near the equator, which again is living in sort of a warmer climate of the earth, I think that there's definitely something to that. Of course, I'm sure it's possible to live older, but maybe not to live to be older if you're in a different part of the world, but maybe not as likely. So anyways, this first episode takes place in Okinawa, Japan, and we are following a man named Dan Buettner. Buettner. I'm trying to read my own handwriting. So Dan Buettner spent 20 years doing all of this research into these blue zones and trying to find out the secrets of these locations and why these people are living to be as old as they are. Dan is pretty cool himself. He holds the world record for cycling across 5 continents around the globe. So that's pretty wild, like across all of the US, North America, obviously not in the ocean. I'm pretty sure he took a boat or a plane maybe across the ocean. Europe, Russia. They didn't go too much into his backstory, but that's a very amazing accomplishment to hold the world record for cycling. So he's pretty cool. Obviously, he's no stranger to, kind of the limits of what your body can do. And he was looking for he kind of wanted an adventure with a purpose. So I think that's what inspired him to go on this journey to Okinawa, to these other places. And if you haven't seen this series, if you haven't watched any of this docuseries, no worries. I'm going to go over everything. We're not going to go too much into the documentary itself. It's more just about pulling the content and the information from the documentary and from the episode, and then we're going to kind of expand from there. Okay, so let's jump into it. So I want to kind of kick us off here with a quote from one of the centenarians. So her name is Umeto Yamashiro. She's 101 years old at the time that they filmed this documentary. And we saw her hanging out with Dan and I think a lot of the women from her side of the family. So her daughters and her granddaughters. Umeto, this woman had great hand-eye coordination. They were playing a little game where they were throwing rings onto this like little pegboard that was sort of across the room. And she even broke out an instrument, like a sort of stringed guitar-like instrument, and was very beautifully and accurately playing that. So her hand-eye coordination, her dexterity, her mental capacity, like everything was there. She was spot on, which I was very impressed with. It was pretty amazing. And Dan asked her, you know, what's the secret? How do you live to be 101 years old? And this is what she said. She said, always have fun, don't get angry, make people happy. Now I want to break that down a little bit. Always have fun means, it's pretty straightforward. Have fun. Joy and fun and happiness and smiling and laughter keeps us young. It keeps us happy. It keeps all of those good dopamine, oxytocin, all that good stuff flowing through our veins. So that's the first one. Don't get angry. This was interesting because I don't think that's what someone might think of as something that ages you. Anger, and I think alongside that stress and negative emotions. But if you take a moment and think about it, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. People who have health issues, people who die early, a lot of the times they're stressed and they're upset and things are going badly in their lives and they maybe can't pull out of it. They're depressed, anxiety, you're in a negative headspace. All of that stuff definitely ages you and puts stress. It releases cortisol in your body. It puts oxidative stress on your body, and those things lead to poor health and unhappiness. And it sounds kind of dire, but a premature death. So don't get angry. And make people happy. And very interesting, she didn't say make yourself happy, she said make people happy, other people. And I think that it's very simple, but I think it's pretty profound and not something that a lot of people necessarily think about or focus on in this day and age. But that sort of selflessness of wanting to make other people happy, wanting to make other people feel good, giving of yourself to someone else actually fills your cup in a way that nothing else can. And I think that that's really important. And it also kind of aligns with the idea of what you put out into the world, you will get back to yourself. So if you are putting out good vibes, if you're trying to do nice things for other people, if you are trying to make other people happy, then you will get good vibes back. Other people will do nice things for you. Other people will try to make you happy. And then we're just in this loop of giving and receiving and giving and receiving, and we're all lifting each other up, and we're all gonna live to be 100 years old. So very simple things. Always have fun. Don't get angry. Make people happy. But I think that those are very important to remember. And just another quote that kind of came out of this in the section, laughter brings longevity. As much as you can, laugh. Find things that make you laugh, make other people laugh. I mean, if you're laughing, you're having fun, right? If you're laughing, you're not angry. If you're laughing, you're probably making other people happy, or they're making you happy. And it just makes you feel good. So why wouldn't you want to laugh? Why wouldn't you want to be having that kind of fun all the time? So those things sort of apply to kind of like your mental and emotional state and some of your actions. And we're gonna go a little deeper into some of the actual practical things that you can do to live a long and healthy life. And I mean, looking back on it, none of this stuff is like brand new, secrets of the world revealed sort of thing. It's all stuff that, logically makes sense. And we all kind of know on some level that these things are good for us and they make us happy. But it was interesting just to see it all laid out and to see kind of the evidence of all of this presented in the long lives of these people. Okay, so let's talk about food. Let's talk about what you eat, because you can't talk about living a long, healthy life and not talk about what you're putting into your body to fuel it. So these people out here, they're not eating fast food. They're not eating a lot of processed foods. Most of them garden, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but they garden, so they're getting, fresh organic food straight from the ground. It hasn't, traveled long distances. It doesn't have any preservatives. It hasn't been processed. So the quality of the food that you eat really, really makes a difference. Another thing that apparently really, really makes a difference is purple sweet potatoes. So I think in Japanese, these are called beni imo. And the research that Dan was doing here in Okinawa, he discovered that about 70% of what these people are eating are beni imo, purple sweet potatoes. Now, apparently, years ago, they had a food shortage, and having an abundance of these purple sweet potatoes kind of helps them get through that. Apparently, they're also tsunami proof, which is not really something that I've ever considered as, needing to be a factor in the food that I'm growing or eating. But I mean, in Japan, it makes sense. So these grow underground, so they're tsunami proof, and they're really good for you. I mean, sweet potatoes are so good for you, especially purple sweet potatoes. They have a ton of antioxidants, even more than blueberries, which I love blueberries. I eat blueberries every single day, and I think maybe I should start eating purple sweet potatoes. But antioxidants are important because they reverse the oxidative stress on your body, which we talked about earlier. So if your body is oxidizing, it's basically rusting. That's what that is. That's what that process is. Just to put it in very, very simple terms, I don't even understand it deeper than this, but this at least has helped me kind of, in my own mind, relate the importance of antioxidants in your diet. So if you're stressed, if you're going through oxidative stress, your body is sort of like rusting, and obviously that's not good. So antioxidants, the more antioxidants you can put into your body, the more you are counteracting that stress, and the healthier you will be. Antioxidants also help protect you from the sun. They act as kind of like a natural sunscreen. They'll build up in your body if you eat enough of them before you go out in the sun. So purple sweet potatoes, start eating purple sweet potatoes if you want to live to be 100 years old. That's what I'm going to do. Other foods that they eat include tofu, squid ink, asa seaweed. And so this is important because they're using this food as medicine. Food as medicine. I think there's a quote from Hippocrates, "Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food." So the more that you can make sure that you are putting good, high quality, nutritious, healthy food into your body, the less medicine, like quote unquote, or other like help that you're gonna need staying healthy. So that's where it starts. If you're eating junk all day, if you're eating processed food, if you're not eating enough vegetables, if you're not eating enough fruits, and you're just eating because it tastes good and you want that like satisfaction, you're going to pay for that later. You're going to need actual medicine later. So if you can circumvent that, eat the medicine now, eat the good food now, then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything else. I know tofu is really good for you, especially for women. I know men kind of, don't want to eat as much soy because it has a bunch of estrogen in it. But tofu is good for you. And I know it has to be like high quality, like fermented tofu. So like the kind that they're eating here in Okinawa, Japan is very good because it's fresh. They're making it themselves. It's not coming to you in like a little plastic thing. So you just have to be careful if you're going to eat a bunch of tofu. Make sure it's good, high quality tofu. And tofu is really good for lowering cholesterol and slowing down the development of cancer. So eat good food and eat. I'm trying to think of how exactly to say this, because it's not don't eat a lot of food. Like, you obviously want to eat enough to satiate yourself and fuel your body, but you also don't want to overeat. So let's look at some numbers. I think that'll help. Here in the US, it is recommended that you eat 2,000 or 2,500 calories per day. On average, we're eating about 3,600 calories per day, which is a lot. And the documentary went a little bit into why this happened. Why are we recommended so much? Why are we eating so much? So we talked to a woman named Marianne Nessel. And I didn't write down exactly what her qualifications are, but she was qualified to speak on this stuff. And she said that in the late 1900s, the Secretary of Agriculture ordered food production to be increased. So all across the US, we were making more food. Now, if we're making more food, someone's got to eat that food. Someone's got to buy that food, or else the US government is losing money, right? And they hate doing that. So in a sort of marketing scheme, if you will, they put out the information that people need to eat more per day. Portion sizes increased in like restaurants and fast food across the nation so that they could put more food into it and still tell you, oh, this is a small meal, this is a small drink size, but it's actually, 25% larger than it was the year before. They're just not telling you that. And food has been formulated to make you want more of it, to make you want to keep eating. They're putting a ton of chemicals and a ton of additives, and it's basically the little scientists in their lab are going and doing experiments and saying, okay, how can we make this food just the right amount of salty and sweet and savory to make it delicious and addictive so that people keep coming back for more. And that's why we have an obesity crisis in the US, because the food is too good, people don't have self-control, portion sizes have increased, and now being larger and overweight has been normalized and even glorified to some degree. So I personally don't try really hard not to buy into any of that. I try to be really aware of what I'm eating and how much I'm eating. And I just kind of keep all of that in the back of my head so that, I can use that information to make better choices for myself. Like the people of Okinawa are making very good choices for themselves. So they eat about 2,000 calories per day, which is still a lot. That's still a good amount. But they're eating food with a low nutritional density, meaning it's high volume, but the food has less calories and less nutrients. So that, and I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but what that means is that in order to eat, a low amount of calories, you're eating a high volume of food. So if you think about, now I'm going to make up some numbers right now, it's going to be approximate. Think about like a cheeseburger from McDonald's. That's pretty small. It fits in the palm of your hand. let's say that has like 500 calories in it, okay? Just as an estimate, just as an example. So it's small and it has a lot of calories in it. Now, if you take a vegetable like celery or broccoli, those have, per stock, they have a lower amount of calories. So in order to get 500 calories of broccoli, you need to eat like a whole bowl, right? So you're going to get full off that broccoli because it's a high volume of food. It's going to fill you up, fill up your stomach. You're going to feel full. You're going to feel satisfied. You won't have eaten a ton of calories, and you're going to get a lot of good micronutrients in there from the broccoli as well. Whereas with a hamburger from McDonald's, you're going to eat that thing. It's so small that there's no way that you're going to feel full off of one hamburger, but it has 500 calories. So in order to feel satiated, you're going to need to eat more. You're going to eat more calories, and then, calories in, calories out. The more calories you eat, the more you have to burn. If you don't burn it off, you're going to get fat. So that's just what happens. I don't make the rules. That's just what happens. The people of Okinawa eat high quality food. They eat low nutritionally dense food so that they can eat more and feel satisfied. Now, talking about satisfaction, they also have another sort of rule, guideline that's just passed along family to family, generation to generation. It's a little phrase that they remind themselves of before they eat. And the phrase is hara hachi bu. And that means, directly translated, it means 8 out of 10. And what that means in terms of eating and food is stop when you're about 80% full. When you're 8 out of 10, stop eating. And this is a good rule because it usually takes your brain about an extra 15 to 20 minutes to catch up to your stomach. So by the time your brain is getting the signal that you're full, your stomach is past full, right? You've eaten too much at that point. So it's good to stop when you're just before you feel like you're full. You feel like, I could eat a little more, but maybe let me remember 8 out of 10, hara hachibu. Let me take a couple of minutes and just rest and see and wait for my brain to catch up with my stomach and see if I'm actually full. And by then you'll probably realize, okay, I'm good. I can move on. I don't need to eat this last, 20% of my food. I'm satisfied and that's enough. Or maybe you wait, 15, 20 minutes and you realize, oh no, I'm actually still hungry. I could eat a little more. And this was something that was actually told to me when I was a kid. I remember talking to my parents about it. When I was younger, they were super health conscious. They instilled some really good values around eating and food in me and my brother. And that's really helped me, carry on into my adulthood. So this is something that, I talked about, but I forgot until, watching this documentary. And now when I'm eating, I actually do think about it. Has that, stopped me yet? Have I listened to that advice and followed it yet? No, but I'm thinking about it. So that's a step in the right direction. So all of this really good food, a lot of it comes from the gardens of the people who are eating it. So this community in Okinawa, this is rural Okinawa. So there's a lot of nature. They've got some land. And most of these elders and centenarians keep gardens. So they are out almost every day tending to their garden. And what this does is, A, it's giving them good food. B, they're going outside. They're getting light. They're getting sun. They're getting fresh air. And they're getting to see some nature, see some green things, see some plants. And they're getting some physical activity. Gardening is no joke. You're really down there in the dirt. You're working. You're, digging and moving and plucking and weeding, and it's a lot. It can be tough. So I think this is a really important factor as to why these people live to be so old, is because they garden. And the sun is so important. It's been sort of demonized and villainized, especially here in the US, but the sun is so important. We need sunlight. It is the largest source of vitamin D, and a large amount of the people in the world have a vitamin D deficiency because we live inside our little homes, our little boxes. We get in our little boxes with wheels to go to work. We sit on our little boxes at the office with, a window, maybe 20 feet away, maybe you don't see a window at all. And we're inside all day, and we're not outside, and we're not in the sun, and it's so important. I have had a vitamin D deficiency that I just recently started seriously treating, and I've seen a lot of improvements even in just that. And I do think it was a big factor into some of my own health issues that I've been, working on for the past couple of years. So please, people, if you take nothing away from this, go out into the sun. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to give you cancer, despite what they say. You need it. You need it to survive. We're like plants. Plants get their food from the sun. We get energy from the sun. We get our health from the sun. We need to feel the light on our skin. We need to get the light in our eyes. Sunlight helps, especially sunlight in the morning, and sunlight like sunset light helps kind of set our circadian rhythm so that we sleep well. It's so important, you guys. I could do a whole podcast just about how important the sun is, but I'll move on for now. So this little exercise, and just the mobility and control that you have over your body also plays a big factor in your overall health. And there was another man, his name is Harumasa Mikaro. He was 87 years old, and he had this full-on woodworking workshop behind his house, and he was in there creating stuff, making tools, things like that. And they asked him, what do you need in order to, live a long life? And he said, this was very interesting to me because I hadn't really thought about this. He said speed. And you saw him do a chopping motion with his hand, really quick. And he said speed. What I think that he means, and I mean how this is translating in my head into, actionable exercises and stuff like that, is it's your fast twitch muscles. So the muscles and the capability of your body to be able to move quickly in any direction, as if you're doing, like jumping jacks or jump squats or stuff like that, or, sprinting, explosive movements, explosive exercises. Your body being able to move quickly and explosively is a key toward health. So, I mean, I do a lot of exercises like that. I was a gymnast for a lot of my life. A lot of that is fast twitch muscles. And it's definitely easy for that kind of movement to decline over the years. But evidently, if you prioritize it and you do those exercises and do those movements and train your fast twitch muscles, you will maintain that sort of speed and physical capability into your later years. And that is a factor that, again, I mean, it's helping him, with his life move around. It's helping him continue to create things with his hands and be able to work. He also demonstrated a very advanced level of flexibility. He literally went into a full lotus position like it was nothing. And that's where both of your feet, your legs are crossed, but you're able to pull both of your feet on top of your thighs, right by your hips. I can do that, but I have to warm up for it and stretch out and then go into it. And even then, it's uncomfortable for me to sit in it for very long. I have to get out. And he did it like it was nothing. He was even pressing himself up with his hands, lifting his legs off of the ground. That's crazy. And that's also impressive. It's super impressive. Props to him. Big claps for Harumasa Mikaro for maintaining that level of like physical capability. Honestly, that's inspiring, and I want that for myself as well. I'd love to be able to do a full lotus when I'm 87 years old. And I think one thing that helped him and probably helps all of these people to be able to maintain this kind of like strength and flexibility is that they really don't have a lot of furniture in their houses. They have, like a table to eat at, you have a mat to sleep on, but they spend a lot of their time sitting on the floor. Now, this may be, this isn't like the most obvious thing to think about. This is maybe even like to us here in the US, it maybe even sound a little strange. Like, why are you sitting on the floor? And that's like what kids do. But if you think about it, kids have a lot of flexibility, have a lot of energy, have a lot of fast twitch muscles, and they're pretty strong, right? So there's something to that. I mean, if you're spending a lot of your time sitting on the floor, that means you also spend a lot of your time sitting down to the floor and getting up from the floor. And doing those kinds of movements, it trains your flexibility because you have to be able to, bend all the way down and manipulate your legs and be able to engage those muscles to then stand all the way back up. So it helps flexibility, it helps strengthen your core, your legs, and your balance as well. You have to have good balance to be able to get up off the floor. I mean, this is, one reason why it's such a risk, like falling over is such a risk for elderly people, is because they're not mobile enough to catch themselves or strong enough to get back up. And these people here in Okinawa, they don't have that problem. They've got good balance. They're probably not falling over very much. They're getting down on the floor, so they have no issues getting back up. And I think that is something that we all should really strive for, because that's only gonna benefit us, right? That's only gonna benefit you later in life if you have good practice and good strength, getting down, getting up, moving around, squatting down, like they call it the like Asian squat, where you can fully squat down with all of your feet still on the floor. I don't know if that's offensive or not to call it that, but is it wrong? These are people from Okinawa, Japan. They are Asian. They can sit like that, and why? that should be like a point of pride for them. That should be a marker of, like, we're talking about health and longevity. And if we're sitting over here in the West saying, oh, haha, you do an Asian squat, your feet are on the floor when you're squatting all the way down, why would we be making fun of that? That's not something to make fun of. That's just us trying to make ourselves feel better that we can't do that, right? So rather than pushing that away and seeing that as something that's weird that these other people from the East do, what if we embrace that as that's something that I want to do, that's something that I can do, I just have to practice and stretch and work for it, and then I'll be flexible and strong when I'm 87 years old. And who doesn't want that? So all of these people that we met in this documentary episode, they all had so much energy. They all had so much humor. They were all smiling. They were all very happy. And they had sharp minds. They could think well, they could speak well, they could articulate, they're doing work, That's pretty amazing. And they just have, you can just feel it through the screen. They have so much vitality, so much life in them. And I've seen elderly people who don't have that. And it's really sad, honestly, to see people and to know that there are people out there who are really struggling and who have a lot of health problems and can't move well, and they either need like a walker or a wheelchair, or they're in a lot of pain. People are in so much pain all the time, and it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. And I hope that you guys get something out of this, I'm getting something out of this certainly, that inspires you to want to be like these people, to want to eat well, to have this mobility, to have this happy mindset, to, put an effort into yourself, to value your body and your mind enough to do what is best for yourself now so that you can reap the rewards later. All right, guys, we have a couple more things that I really want to go over. These are probably the most important pieces of information that came out of this episode, so listen well. One thing that they shared with Dan is the existence of something, it's called a moai, M-O-A-I. And basically what that means is that this small community of people, they pool money into a communal, a communal account, a communal, bowl, a metaphorical bowl that is there for people who need it. So if something goes wrong, if someone does have some sort of accident, if they get hurt, they need to go to the hospital. I'm sure if something happens to their cars or their houses, they can take from this pool of money and use it to help that person. So it kind of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of giving to other people. Someone might put money in this pool. They may never need the pool. They may never need to use that money. Someone else does. And they don't care. They're not like, no, this is my money. Why would I give it to someone else? They understand the importance of community. They understand the importance of having people around you that you help and that they help you in return. And that kind of support and that kind of group of people and friendship, that really, really plays a big part in happiness and survival. I mean, here in the US, we're in sort of a loneliness epidemic. More people than ever are isolated, are lonely. They don't have friends, they don't have family. And that can cost you, according to this documentary, that can cost you 15 years off your life. 15 years is a long time. I can't imagine dying 15 years early just because I'm lonely. That is scary to me. More than I think anything else, being lonely later in life is scary. And again, that's not something that, needs to be a reality. We just need to take the time now while we're young to build up these friendships and build up our community. And we were able to watch this group of people, they brought out drums, they brought out guitars, they were playing music, they were all singing and dancing together. And you could tell that they were happy, they were smiling. This kind of stuff gives them energy. It builds you up. It, releases dopamine, all those good, happy feelings. And that's just going to keep you young and keep you healthy. All right, we're going to take a brief moment to nerd out here a little bit. So when they were bringing out these instruments, they had these drums, and these drums had a specific symbol on them, and it looked like 3 commas all in a circle. And if you're a anime Naruto nerd like I am, then you would recognize this as the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. But obviously these people aren't creating drums, based on an anime. So I looked it up. This symbol is based on a traditional Japanese symbol called a tomo. Apparently, this represents balance and harmony, among other things. So how very fitting to be representing this life that they're living and this happiness that they feel with balance and harmony. And I have here the threefold tomo, which is a 3 commas in a circle, is called a mitsudomo. And some believe it to be a representation of the threefold division of man, earth, and sky, or earth, heaven, and humans. That's at the heart of Shintoism. So I thought that was very interesting too. I mean, it just kind of surprised me to see that symbol just because I know it from Naruto and from the anime. But to see these people, using it. I mean, obviously this is their culture, so of course they'd be using it as it is originally meant to be used. But I like the idea of, again, just sort of symbolically representing them living these long lives with an emphasis on balance and harmony. Balance in all things, making sure you're eating a balanced meal, making sure you're balancing time resting versus spent time active. And then harmony, making sure all parts of your life are, working together to create the best version of yourself. Harmony between you and your environment, the gardens that you keep, harmony between you and your community, the people around you. So this is, I love learning about all of this stuff. I love making these little connections and seeing how this applies to their lives. And then, from there, I'm thinking about how I can apply it to my life as well. All right, so we've got one more topic, and this topic kind of speaks about sort of the mental and emotional resilience that you need to have in order to live to be 100 years old. So all of these centenarians who are, living currently in Okinawa, they lived through World War II. And that, as you can imagine, was a very difficult time. They are experiencing a lot of PTSD, especially in Okinawa. Just in Okinawa, over 200,000 people were killed. That's more people than the entire United States. So the war hit them very hard. A lot of them, I'm sure, lost family members, lost friends, struggled to get through the war, struggled after the war to get back to a normal life. One woman, she said that she had worked for the government and they gave her a grenade and said, basically, if you need a way out, here you go. Better to, fall on your sword than to die at the hands of the enemy. But she was able, she held on to it, she didn't use it, she pushed through, and they survived. And she was, talking about this, telling the story. She looked right at the camera and she said, and I wrote this down because, I wanted to say it word for word for you guys and to remember it for myself. She said, no matter what, no matter how poor you are, you can survive. Endure everything. Endure everything. Don't give up. And I think that's the most important lesson that we can take from all of this is don't give up. So if you give up, then you've lost. Then you're gone. Then you're done. If you keep going, no matter what, there's always another chance. There's always another opportunity. You keep pushing through something. You never know what's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, even the next 1 year, even in the next month, things could change. So, keep going. Endeavor through this life. Endeavor to 100 years old. Endeavor past that. And as you're doing that, enjoy the present. Enjoy the present moment because that's literally all you have. And that goes back to the beginning when we were talking about have fun. When you're having fun, when you're laughing, when you're happy, you're in the present moment. You're living in this moment. You're not worried about the past. You're not worrying about the future. You're in the here and now. So, be happy, enjoy the present moment, and be grateful as well. I mean, I'm sure that these people who lived through the war, who lived through World War II, I'm sure they have so much gratitude for their lives and their homes and their friends and their family, because there was a chance that they could lose it all. And I'm sure they lost a lot, but they are grateful for what they have. They went through that hardship and they came out stronger on the other side. I think that hardship breeds resilience. The more that you can endure, the more that you can put your body and your mind through, and the more that you struggle, the better you are going to be for it. The more resilient you are going to come out on the other side. And of course, we don't want to struggle. We don't want to go through hardships. I mean, it's inevitable, right? We can strive for a soft, cushy life, but at the end of the day, that's really not going to make you happy, and that's not going to give you the kind of character that's going to get you to 100 years old. So don't go seeking out hardships, don't go putting yourself in harm's way, but there are ways that we can, sort of test ourselves like that. For example, exercise is a really good way to kind of put your body through some hardship in a controlled environment and to push yourself past your limits and to grow in terms of your physical body, in terms of your mental capabilities. Try something new, right? That's a good way to kind of craft this hardship, because if you're doing something new, you're going to come up against some struggles. You're going to come up against some roadblocks to overcome just because you've never done something before. If you're learning, then think about a kid. If you're a kid, you're learning how to, walk for the first time. You're going to fall over 100 times. You're going to crawl a little bit and stand up and pull yourself up, and then maybe the next day you can't. And, did you give up when you were learning how to walk just because it was hard? No, you kept going and you built resilience, and now you're walking, now you're running, now you're doing all these crazy things, I hope, that you couldn't do before. So there's little ways like that to kind of toughen yourself up. Another good one is fasting. Fasting is so good for you. It's so good for your body. If you're fasting, your body heals itself. If you don't have food like in your stomach, in your system that your body needs to process, it'll just kind of go through and start cleaning up other bits of your digestive system, even like your bloodstream and stuff. And fasting is hard. Fasting is really hard, especially, the first couple of times that you're doing it. You're used to eating. Eating is familiar. Your body wants to eat. But if you can push through that hardship, it will create a resilience in you that will make it easier the next time. And then when you come up against, something else in life that's difficult, you already have this well to draw from of, I've done these hard things. I've pushed my body in the gym. I've pushed my mental discipline with fasting. I've learned something new, so that now here's this other hardship. Here's something else coming up that is going to challenge me, that's going to push me. I know that I can do it because I've already pushed myself in these other ways. Well, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out with me here. I hope that you learned something new about Okinawa, Japan, or just about health and wellness in general. I know I did. I hope you guys feel as inspired as I do to take good care of yourselves so that you can live as long as humanly possible. I think that we should all check in 100 years and see where we're at. There were a couple of other episodes in this series. I think the next one was about a place in Greece and a place in California. I think it'd be really interesting to kind of compare and contrast the information from these other locations, see what is the same, see what is different. So if you want that as well, let me know. You can find Operation Smarty Pants on Instagram. I will put the handle in the description below because as of recording this, I have not created it yet. So take a look there. Come follow us on IG. I'm going to be posting, updates. I'm going to be letting you know like what the upcoming topics and documentaries are if you want to watch and follow along before we have this discussion. Or not. Like I said, you never need to have watched a documentary before. We're always just going to talk and chat and hang out. It's very casual, we're not doing anything crazy over here. We're just having fun learning new things. Please go leave me a 5-star review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And at the end of next week's episode, I will give a shout out to any new 5-star reviews as a piece of gratitude from me for helping this podcast grow. So stick around after this for some shout outs from the previous episode. And other than that, I will see you guys next time. Ciao. All right, it is time for some shout outs. So I've only got a couple this week because it's only the first episode of the podcast. It's not out there in a ton of people's radar yet, so we don't have a lot. But I just want to shout out and give some gratitude to those who either left a review or sent me a response to the first episode. So the first one is to my father, who listened to the first episode. He said it sounded good. It was a great topic. The ending hit him the same way that it hit me. And that was, just to refresh the memory, that was about the deepest breath and the deep sea freediving. So thank you for the feedback. I'm glad it sounded good. And, more to come. Second shout out is to Alexis RB on Apple Podcast. She gave me a 5-star review and she said, super cool. I learned a lot. Can't wait for more. So thank you for listening. Thank you for leaving me a review. And anyone who's listening now, go leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. Give me 5 stars on Spotify as well. I don't think I can shout those out, but I would appreciate it anyways. You can also find the podcast on Instagram at SmartyPantsPod. Go comment on the posts about the episodes. I'll be responding to those comments there. I'll give you some shout outs on the next episode. Or YouTube as well. Operation Smarty Pants on YouTube. Go comment on the episodes and we can chat there as well. All right, everyone, that is it for me for today. I will see you next week.